New York City. By the end of the 1970s, it was a city on its knees, in a country that was losing its mind.
It's a war out in the street.
The American dream had become a nightmare, and no place felt as rotten and as hopeless as New York.
They're going to make a ghost town out of the city of New York.
It was a war zone without tanks and planes and people dropping bombs.
But suddenly, at the dawn of a new decade,
it felt like really good sex.
There was something else in the air. Opportunity.
Boom times.
It was everywhere in the 80s, and 5 New Yorkers pounced.
Ivan Boesky, Wall Street's biggest independent speculator, and according to Forbes, one of the richest men in this country.
One of the great things about this nation is that we can seek profit.
Leona Helmsley, the emblem of the Helmsley Hotel empire.
I'm a dangerous character. Watch out, everybody.
Trump. It's taking on new meaning. Tycoon, billionaire, maverick.
The concept of what I'm trying to do in terms of real estate is the best.
John Gotti, alias The Godfather, the boss.
You guys and Giuliani should be in church.
Giuliani has sewn himself into the fabric of this city.
This is a terrible, terrible emergency.
They broke rules, flaunted their wealth,
42 million.
bulldozed anyone in their way.
Hey, tell me about it.
And we worshipped them for it.
He's a murderer. He's not a folk hero.
By the end of the decade, they had reshaped the city in their own image.
Look at this. I mean, wouldn't you want your daughter to bring this guy home?
But at what cost?
A tipster had information that would clearly prove that they were defrauding the United States government.
He agreed to act as an undercover agent.
You tell this punk, I'm with John Gotti, to sever your mother head off.
It's really a shocking turn of events. You know it's all going to come to a crashing halt.
Pick your poison. It might be money, it might be sex, it might be drugs.
He said, I wish you could see her naked. Even today, it makes me uncomfortable.
If you think I just slandered you, sue me.
These 5 titans would change the meaning of the American dream and help define the way we live now. The city, our country, the world. None of it would ever be the same.
Good evening and welcome to NBC News' coverage of the 1980 presidential election. Our team of correspondents, analysts, pollsters, and commentators is assembled here in New York and around the country to see if Jimmy Carter can win re-election or if Ronald Reagan will be going to the Oval Office.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
No.
It is a crisis of confidence.
Jimmy Carter was a perfect fit for the 1970s, a misfire of a president for a misfire of a decade. It's a decade of inflation, of Vietnam, of Watergate.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
A decade where Americans are starting to wonder whether the American dream is over. It's a decade where all of a sudden, the greatest city in the world, New York City, might go bankrupt.
The city of dreams is becoming a nightmare. $13 billion in debt and teetering on bankruptcy. New York is hanging by a thread and only seems to be getting worse.
19,000 municipal workers lost their jobs today because of budget cuts.
A whole block would be covered with garbage bags that would sit there for weeks and stink up the place. And this was normal.
About 5,000 policemen also were laid off.
This is comparable to laying off soldiers during a war. 4 people are murdered here every day. There's a violent crime every 4 minutes.
It's just like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Was the vibe of everybody.
Some people once called New York Fun City. Now the police and firemen's unions in New York are calling it Fear City.
New York City becomes the center and the symbol of America's decline.
New York was finished.
But in the midst of chaos lies opportunity. And some savvy New Yorkers were ready to make their move in 1980 when an unlikely candidate shocked the world.
Reagan is our projected winner. Ronald Wilson Reagan of California, a sports announcer, a film actor.
This man who's dismissed. Ronald Reagan, he's a joke. Ronald Reagan, he's an actor. Ronald Reagan, he's an imbecile.
I don't think anyone anticipated that it eventually would become a floodgate of one kind or another, where the votes would just flood in for Ronald Reagan.
But Ronald Reagan understood that hope is a drug. And he sold this story of America on the way back.
This country needs a new administration with a renewed dedication to the dream of an America, an administration that will give that dream new life and make America great again.
Ronald Reagan comes in 1980, and he believes in capitalism. He believes that we have to lower taxes for the wealthy because that will trickle down to everyone else. And we have to deregulate businesses so business would be freer to create jobs.
I would like to have a crusade today to take government off the backs of the great people of this country.
All of a sudden, Ronald Reagan shows up on the doorstep and says, no, 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 we're deregulating everything. And one of the first things he does is he says, look at this case. There's an antitrust case against IBM. He said, it's over. Justice Department ended the case. The message was, game on. Everything is for sale.
Ronald Reagan opens the spigot. Ronald Reagan starts getting the money flowing again. It brings back a confidence to Wall Street. It brings back a confidence to the American stock market. It brings back a confidence to the American investor. And in fact, changes all of them.
It enabled the rise of this much more aggressive, much more hostile, much more money-oriented culture.
So as animal spirits are filling the air everywhere, this new class of investor arrives on the scene to become a takeover artist. Using debt from Wall Street, they're gonna go buy companies that never would have been takeover bait before.
Takeover mania in America. Huge corporations are gobbling one another at a rate unmatched in history.
This was the era of mergers and acquisitions, and they were being celebrated as heroes.
Wall Street becomes a symbol of the new Gilded Age. And the best symbol of that
You just want to own it.
Is Ivan Boesky.
A man who came from nothing and reinvented himself on Wall Street. He was a master of secrets with an aggressiveness the financial world had never seen before. And he had nowhere to go but up.
Ivan Boesky was this great white shark out there in the ocean. You knew he was out there. Every now and then he would attack. Very few of us had any real sense of Ivan Boesky as a person. But the picture that emerged was this kind of classic archetypal thing of this spectral, gaunt, white-haired guy, always in black. He was just this ghost.
Ivan Boesky was a trader who was known as an arbitrageur.
What is an arbitrageur, you ask? It is a person such as Boesky who buys up stock and takes a big gamble that prices will rise so that he can sell the stock at a higher price. Of course, if no takeover occurs, an arbitrageur like Boesky could end up losing a bundle.
His specialty in life was betting on deals when one company was buying another company, whether the deal would close.
Arbs trafficked in information. What was going on? Who was in play? Who was going to be attacked next?
Everybody's calling each other on the phone, trying to get that little morsel. What is that one little thing that's going to give them an edge? And so Boesky had this reputation for literally living on the telephone all day and night, and literally like this all day long.
Pacing in front of monitors, barking at his traders.
If we have that shot, would you like to do as much as you can?
Screaming at just about anybody who would move. And if it didn't work out for him, he was throwing things.
I was in Boesky's office once. He was shouting at his traders, and then he would say, Act 1, Scene 1. He said that to me, like it was play acting. He did a lot of play acting. His employees would do anything, however, because he made a heck of a lot of money, and they thought he was a magician.